I heard my name called from 6 feet underground. Not once, 3 times. 3 different graves over 3 days. And on that 3rd day, when I finally answered back, something replied, "Thank you for letting me out." That was 4 days ago. I haven't been back to work since, and I'm never going back. My name is Sarah, and I've been a grave digger at Riverside Cemetery for 7 years. It's not glamorous work, but it pays well, and honestly, I prefer the company of the dead to most living people. The deceased don't complain. They don't make small talk. They just rest. Or at least, that's what I used to think. It started on a Monday in late October. I was finishing up a plot in Section K, the older part of the cemetery where the trees grow thick and the ground gets heavy with clay. The funeral was scheduled for Tuesday morning, so I was working late to get the grave ready. 6 feet deep, walls straight, bottom level. It was around 6:30 p.m. Sun was setting, that golden hour light filtering through the oak trees. I was down in the grave, smoothing out the bottom with my shovel, when I heard it. "Sarah?" Clear as day, a woman's voice, soft but distinct. I froze, shovel mid-swing. "Hello?" I called out, looking up at ground level. Nobody there. The cemetery was empty. I'd seen the last visitor leave 20 minutes earlier. "Must be hearing things," I muttered, going back to work. But my hands were shaking. Then I heard it again. "Sarah." Closer this time. Like someone was standing right at the edge of the grave, looking down at me. But when I looked up, there was nothing but empty air and twilight sky. "Who's there?" my voice cracked. "This isn't funny." Silence. Just the wind moving through the trees and the distant sound of traffic from the main road. I climbed out of that grave faster than I'd ever moved in my life. Grabbed my tools, didn't even clean them properly. Just threw everything in my truck and got the hell out. I didn't sleep well that night. Kept hearing that voice in my head. Sarah. The way it said my name, there was something familiar about it, but I couldn't place it. Tuesday morning, I told myself I'd imagined it. Exhaustion, low blood sugar. The mind plays tricks when you work alone in graveyards at dusk. I'd been doing this job too long to get spooked by my own imagination. The funeral went fine. I stayed professional, kept my distance, did my job. By Tuesday afternoon, I'd almost convinced myself it was nothing. Then I had to dig another grave. Section M this time, on the other side of the cemetery. Completely different area. The service was scheduled for Thursday, so I had time, but I wanted to get it done while the weather held. I started digging around 4 p.m., made good progress. By 5:30, I was about 4 feet down, taking a water break, when I heard it again. Sarah. My blood turned to ice. Same voice, same tone. But this was a different grave, different section. There was no way, absolutely no way, this was a coincidence. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls of earth around me. "What do you want?" Nothing, just the sound of my own ragged breathing. I scrambled up the ladder I'd placed in the grave, stood at ground level, spinning in circles, searching for anyone who might be messing with me. A coworker playing a prank, a visitor hiding behind a monument. Anything. The cemetery was deserted. My truck was the only vehicle in the lot. The gates were locked. I had the only key. I was completely alone. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. At the bottom of the grave I just climbed out of, there were marks in the fresh dirt. Not from my shovel. These were different. They looked like scratch marks, like someone had dragged their fingers through the soil from underneath. I should have quit right then, should have walked away, gotten in my truck, and never come back. But I needed this job. Bills don't pay themselves, and gravedigger positions don't exactly grow on trees. Plus, a part of me, the stubborn part, refused to be scared away by something I didn't understand. So I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and hit record. If this happened again, I'd have proof. Evidence that I wasn't losing my mind. I climbed back down into the grave and kept digging. Every shovelful of dirt, I was listening, waiting. My phone propped up on the edge, camera running. I dug for another 30 minutes in complete silence. Nothing. No voices. No sounds except my shovel biting into earth and my own breathing. The sun was setting fast now. I had maybe another foot to go before I hit 6 feet. I was starting to think maybe it really had been my imagination, that the stress of the job was finally getting to me after all these years. Then my shovel hit something solid, not a rock, not a root, something that gave a hollow thunk when I struck it. My heart started racing. We had records of everything buried in Section M. There shouldn't be anything down here. This plot had been empty since the cemetery opened in 1952. I knelt down, brushing away dirt with my gloved hands. Smooth surface, curved, wood. I'd hit a coffin, an unmarked, unrecorded coffin that wasn't supposed to exist. Sarah. The voice came from directly beneath me, from inside the coffin. I jerked backward so hard I fell, landing on my back in the dirt. My phone tumbled from the edge, landing screen down beside me. Sarah, please. The voice was clearer now, desperate, and I finally recognized it. It was my sister's voice, Emma, who'd been dead for 12 years. No, I whispered. No, this isn't real. Emma's buried in Oakwood Cemetery across town. I was at her funeral. I saw her. Sarah, I'm so cold. Please, let me out. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely function. This wasn't possible. Emma died in a car accident when she was 19. I was 23. It destroyed our family. I became a gravedigger because of her death. Some twisted way of staying close to her, I guess. Working with the dead made me feel less alone. But this wasn't Emma. It couldn't be. You're not real, I said, my voice breaking. Whatever you are, you're not my sister. Silence. Then, don't you want to see me again? I grabbed my phone, hands trembling, and shined the flashlight down at the exposed wood. There was writing carved into it, crude letters, scratched deep. Sarah, help me, third time. This was the second grave. Second time I'd heard my name, which meant tomorrow there would be a third. I didn't finish that grave. I climbed out, left all my equipment, and drove straight home. Didn't shower, didn't eat. Just sat in my living room with every light on, staring at my phone. I played back the video I'd recorded, watched myself digging, listened to the audio. The voice was there, clear as anything. Sarah, please. But here's what made me want to throw my phone across the room. On the video, it wasn't Emma's voice. It was mine. I was hearing my own voice calling to myself from underground. I called in sick Wednesday, told my supervisor, Michael, that I had the flu. He wasn't happy. We had a burial scheduled for Thursday, and the grave wasn't finished. But he said he'd handle it himself. I spent all day Wednesday trying to convince myself not to go back. Whatever was happening at Riverside Cemetery, it wasn't natural. It wasn't safe. I should quit, find another job, move to another state if I had to. But Wednesday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that carved message. Third time. What if I didn't go back? What if something happened because I abandoned it? What if there really was something trapped down there, and I was the only person who could help? At 11 p.m., I made a decision I immediately regretted. I was going back to the cemetery Thursday morning, before Michael started work. I was going to find out what was in that grave in Section M. And if I found a coffin with my sister's name on it, if Emma was actually buried there, I was going to open it. I needed to know the truth. Thursday dawn broke gray and cold. I drove to the cemetery with my stomach in knots, parked my truck near Section M, and walked toward the unfinished grave. Michael had already been there. The grave was now complete, 6 feet deep, perfectly level. But he hadn't filled it. The coffin I'd partially exposed was still visible at the bottom. And on the headstone above it, someone had placed fresh flowers. Roses, my favorite flowers. Beneath the headstone, barely visible in the early morning light, was a name. Sarah. My name. My grave. I don't remember how I got down into that pit, but suddenly I was at the bottom, staring at the coffin. My hands moved of their own accord, lifting the lid. Inside was a skeleton. Bones. And wrapped around those bones, decomposing cloth that might have been clothing. But here's what stopped my heart. The skeleton was wearing a gravedigger's belt. The same belt I was wearing right now. Same brass buckle. Same faded leather. And in the skeletal hands, clutched tight, a photograph. I picked it up with trembling fingers. The photograph was old, the colors faded, the edges worn. But I could see it clearly. It was me, Sarah, but older, maybe 15, 20 years older. And I was standing at the edge of a grave, looking down with an expression of absolute despair on my face. "Thank you for letting me out." The voice came from behind me. I spun around. Standing at the edge of the grave was Emma, my sister, exactly as she'd looked the day she died, 19 years old, wearing the white dress she was buried in. But her skin was pale, her eyes were hollow, and she was climbing down into the grave toward me. "Emma, what?" "Not Emma," she said, her voice shifting. It became my voice. "I'm you, Sarah. I'm the version of you that listened to the voice calling from the grave, the version of you that opened the coffin." She reached out and grabbed my wrist. Her hand was ice cold. "And now it's your turn to let the next one out." I wrenched away and ran. I don't know how I got out of that grave. I don't remember driving home. I just remember standing in my bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror, terrified that I'd see someone else looking back. My reflection was only me, but in my hand, I still held that photograph. And I could hear a voice in the distance, young, desperate. "Sarah, are you there? Please, let me out, please." That was 4 days ago. I haven't been back to work. I've called in sick every single day. Michael's been texting me, asking when I'm coming back. The cemetery's getting backlogged. They need me. But I can't go back Because this morning, I found something on my doorstep, a fresh gravedigger's uniform folded neatly, and a note written in handwriting I didn't recognize, though somehow I knew exactly who'd written it. Your shift starts tomorrow, the cemetery. And worst of all, tomorrow is the third day, the third grave, the third time someone will call my name from underground. And I don't know if I'll be strong enough to resist answering. Thanks for watching. I hope you consider subscribing for weekly videos.